Men used to dedicate themselves to a waifu as if it was their actual wife. Now, they just pick a handful of gals from each new gacha game that releases, call each one of them wife, and move on the second the game isn't trendy anymore. And I'm just like...
You serious?
That's not mean the slightest. I'll keep it very much a stack. To be honest, I do see that though. Like a lot of people come through, not even just with gacha games, but just with things now in general. Most people now would dedicate a lot of time, not just to one person, but to just a whole horde of waifus when it comes down to it. And literally, if you were to possibly ask anybody what's your main one, they would be having a hard time to debate whether it's this one or that one, whether it's someone like Makima or whether it's someone like Nezuko. You never really effing know, and they can't necessarily decide on between any of these picks when it comes down to it, right? And ultimately, in a casual sort of sense of waifu selection, I understand, right? That'd be like if I said, which one do I want more, Lamine or Belle when it comes down to their games? And that's somewhat of a hard decision, honestly. I would probably still choose Lamine, but when it comes down to it, that's a hard, somewhat kind of decision. And again, I get and understand when you have, you know, those options that are really just close together to a point, you can't really decide whether or not you would want that character or this character when it comes down to it. However, I think one thing is clear when it comes down to me. One thing that has been clear for over the years, just in general, as long as I've done content creation, even before I even done content creation, one thing is clear for me personally, and that's none of these gacha games, when it comes down to it, no matter how fine the character, how beautiful things look, how sexy the game can be, not a single one can stand up to Koneko Telja.
Yes! Yes!
Hey man, that's just how it is for me, right? That is just genuinely how it is. If it wasn't obvious from the branding of this damn channel, if it wasn't obvious for the multiple times of the years where I have brought up Koneko in some level of conversation, whether it's by examples, whether it's literally making a video dedicated to her in some shape or form, there is no way in hell. Hell, in my galleries, in my phone, I literally have a folder dedicated to her, and at the very same time, my phone knows exactly how much I love Koneko, because each time they be showing you like how, oh, you had a picture this day, we're gonna show you this whole like sequence of videos of these pictures or whatever. Literally, the first one in each of these stories that keep happening of these videos is literally Koneko every single time. There has not been a single time where I got this phone and Koneko was not there on top of the stories of all things. That is just how it is. Even my phone understands how Koneko is important to me when it comes down to it. So ultimately, you can have basically anybody from a gacha. You can have Mawika, you can have Skirk, you can have Columbina, you can have, you know, anybody from the Angels of Delusion. You can basically have anybody from Honkai Star Rail. You can add Lupa, you could add Furlova, you could add basically Mornier as well too. You can add Cardathea, you can add even NTE, you can add Fadia, you can add Daffodil, Nanoli, you can add any of those characters, and I promise you, I'm not flip-flopping for any cans of beans when it comes down to Koneko Telja. That is just how it is for me. That is just what it is. I can sit here and say, I'd clap that cheek, and that cheek, but still go home back to the wife of all wives. Now, I'll keep it a stack. Has there been times have I been challenged when it comes down to Koneko and couldn't decide between two characters? Of course I have. Right? There has been that infamous time where Ataru from Kamikatsu literally was, you know, basically questioning my entire existence on whether or not did I actually like Koneko or not when it comes down to it, right? Literally, and it's solely because we haven't had anything DxD in years. Truthfully, we haven't had anything major of DxD in years. So trying to keep up that train of enjoying DxD or enjoying, you know, Koneko to a high end degree was rough, because there was literally, again, no new anime, nothing new of her being coming through in any shape or form that's a major way. It was just it was just torture. It was genuinely just torture. And when it comes down to it though, it's like, how do we go about this? How do I exist with there's no new content of her? And then ultimately, here goes Ataru for Kamikatsu, literally having this strong ass power, literally being hella cute, ends up being, you know, the show wanting to loot her and she doesn't want to get looted herself and all that sort of stuff, right? Literally just being adorable as hell, and she's still cute as shit. And when it comes down to it, yes, that did challenge my sanity when it comes down to it, of how much I did like Koneko or not. But at the end of the day, you still know what I chose? I still chose Koneko at the end of the damn day. It was a struggling pick at the time, but I still chose Koneko at the end of the day. That is still #1 wife to me. At the end of the day, if I basically don't like Koneko anymore, I have lost the plot entirely. If I don't like Koneko anymore, I have completely lost the plot entirely. And this is coming from the guy that basically, again, said that, you know, gacha game women are unfair because they got all that budget and all that money to basically make every character look freaking good and amazing, right? Literally, that's just how it is, but ultimately, that's still not going to change my mind. And again, it doesn't even have to be just gacha when it comes down to it. It could be any thing really across the board when it comes down to just who could be a challenge for your waifu and actually be dedicated when it comes down to it, right? There's plenty of different media across the board when it comes down to it, right? But ultimately, games and anime and gachas and all this other stuff, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you go home back to the one that was there for you in the very beginning of all this stuff. So easily, I don't think we need to question whether or not I am dedicated to, you know, my woman of Koneko when it comes down to it, right? I don't think we need to really question it when it comes down to it, considering as well, we have a whole fan-made story, well, not dedicated to it, but basically where a part of it is that she's married to me in that damn story. I don't think we need to question this shit. She's the only one with a damn ring in that story. While yes, we're gonna have obviously the original characters that could be, you know, married to J2, but still, when it comes down to it, she was the first one to be chosen, and she's gonna be the first one to carry that man's whole ass kid when we get to that point in the show. And as far as the whole, oh, I can imagine myself, you know, like dedicating time to her like an actual wife, I've done that many occasions. There's been times where I thought about that for a lot of different reasons. That just is there just because it's a pleasant thing to think about. Hell, there's been times where even in obviously content that I've done where, you know, I spent time with Koneko, obviously, whether it's throughout in the story, you know, whether it was on her birthday that one time where, you know, Jay was trying to find the perfect gift for her, or whether it was just trying to save her from having her amnesia moment back in season 2 of JS Explorer. It just, again, overall, there's just been plenty of thoughts and plenty of things just regarding her that I've always had, and obviously I treasure to a high ass extent. And genuinely, and I'll be super serious and dead ass when it comes down to saying this, if I had all the cash in the world to do whatever the hell I wanted to, high key, this is a few things I would do. #1, I am 100% buying a certain kind of adult doll toy that is just modeled and shaped after Koneko's original design. That is just how it is for me. For my personal use and no one else's, because no one gets to use them cheeks but me. That's just genuinely how it is. I was gonna actually talk about, you know, the whole state of play that's coming out on Thursday, and was gonna bet Koneko's booty cheeks on that whole thing, that Kingdom Hearts 4 don't show up in any trailer. But I disregarded that when it comes down to it, because that's some ass cheeks that's just too precious just to be handing out for everybody to just use. So no, I value my wife more than that, so that's not happening. But when it comes down to it, obviously make a doll of her, and hopefully she look accurate as shit, so that's just how it is on that one. The second thing, in a big city, if possible, you know how they have them electric billboards and all that sort of stuff that just be in around these like New York and all these other places in the city. Let me buy out one of those so I can throw up an edit of her just doing whatever. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if legally we could do that because of copyright and whatever, but let me do it just for funsies, just because we can, right? That would be another thing. A third thing, this really don't have anything to do with money, but like to get people together, I guess this would be like a difficult thing, but maybe. But ultimately, a third thing, get a gang of cosplayers to basically cosplay as her, Put me in the middle and let me just bask in the Koneko-ness. Let me just have that. And the fourth and final thing, it would be so many hoops and bounds and very much high levels of impossibility that this type of thing happens, because there's just so much about it that just isn't possible. I would deadass, if possible, if there was a reality where it would happen, buy exclusive rights to use Koneko as a character. Just completely own her as a character when it comes down to it. Just be the full rights owner. Not even for the whole DXC, just her specifically. Her and her likeness, any shape or form, that is what is that just what it is for me. That's never happening. That much I can promise you, never would happen when it comes down to it, because there's just so many loops and just things that just be getting in the way. Plus, I'm pretty certain the creator of High School DxD would literally laugh at that sort of idea that someone would think that much to buy Koneko like that when it comes down to it. But ultimately, you get the damn point. That is literally the highest extent of where I would go for that character, and only that character. I would not do this for any other character unless it was original characters I made for myself, which at that point I'm doing whatever regardless. But when it comes down to it though, that is literally how it is. So overall, I don't think we need to question me in particular whether or not I still love Koneko, because I absolutely effing do. There's never going to be a moment where I don't, and anytime I see that bitch ass bum Issei anywhere near her or sharing the same screen, it makes me completely want to crash out in a generational way. It is just how it is. So ultimately, that is just how I feel when it comes down to it, and I'm pretty certain I can say that, yeah, I dedicate enough time to my waifu, much less care a lot about her in that sort of way when it comes down to it. So you don't need to question me on this sort of thing. And again, there's plenty of fine waifus to go around, plenty of cheeks that desperately needs to be clapped, but the one I come home to every night, the one that I basically would just be having waiting in the bed ready for me every night, that's Koneko. That's Koneko for sure. No one else is touching that. And it doesn't even matter if you have like the top priority of the best kudereis ever just lined up ready just to be wifed up in some shape or form. And while there are good choices out there, they're not beating Koneko. There's just no possible way. Now, was this a video just to glaze Koneko? Absolutely. But at the very same time, that was an actual point I did want to make when it comes down to the video in question. A lot of people don't necessarily dedicate a lot of time to their one original true supposed to be waifu when it comes down to it. And a lot of people just pick and choose and then just be like, yeah, this is wife, this is wife, this is wife, but not really have a dedicated soul to one character when it comes down to it. And that is a bit of a shame, honestly. So honestly, if you are someone that's like that, fix yourself. Fix yourself and really figure out who the hell would you want to spend your whole time with when it comes down to it. You can't, it's not saying that you can't like any other character or anything like that, but who's the main one that is your, essentially your ride or die when it comes down to? Like, you gotta have at least one. You gotta have at least just that one. And if you have more than that one, you kind of trash. Not gonna sit here and lie. If you can't decide between the two, that's a different story. But if you don't have one, that's kind of trash. Not gonna sit here and lie. But that's basically, I guess, all I wanted to say when it comes down to it. I guess you have to be a real deal veteran of the anime game so you can basically, you know, be dedicated to one person, because that's just genuinely how it is for a lot of old people in the space of anime too. So, and also at the very same time, you could get a waifu wrong. I had Sakura at one point as my waifu, but then she kept going on about Sasuke and I couldn't care. Madaka was there, but then I literally had a mental breakdown over the character because I couldn't figure her out. So literally had to stop with Madaka. And then Koneko has been there really ever since my high school days. So it's just been damn case ever since, and I'm not really abandoning her for anything. So that's just how it is. So hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification on your way out. Also on my socials, and if you like to donate to the channel, Kofi Cash App is available as well. And until then, it's your boy Jay, sign off. Have a blessed day.